Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today. I apologize for being a few minutes late to this conversation, although this convo is definitely timely. Let me say that. Definitely timely. Um, if there is one issue that I continue to hear across the country, it is about the fact that we do not have a Black woman in the Senate. And so I am very excited to have this convo today with you all. I am grateful that you all have joined us for this conversation. And I wasn't sure if our team wanted to check in and do any housekeeping first, or Michael, you can let me know if I should just go straight into the convo. Okay, all right, I'll keep going. So hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Brown James, co-founder of The Collective, which includes The Collective PAC, The Collective Super PAC, Southern Strategies, as well as Collective Future and the Collective Education Fund. This is an event by The Collective PAC that we are so excited to talk about, because if there's one priority we have as an organization this year, it is to make sure we get a Black woman in the Senate. And I am so grateful tonight to be joined by two good sister friends, leaders of phenomenal organizations. We've worked together in various different ways, and we all have the same goal in mind of not only getting a Black woman in the Senate, but also making sure that we continue to get more Black women, especially on all levels of government. And so it is my honor to introduce to you all our two esteemed panelists for our Collective Future speaker series this evening, Miss Glenda Carr and also Miss Yvette Simpson. And I actually would love for them to introduce themselves and give us a sense of the work that they do through their organizations, where they are from, and get a little bit of inside knowledge about who these two phenomenal women are. And so let's start with Glenda, and then we'll go to Yvette.
I'm like, we're 400 days into Zoom and I still forget to take off mute. And so I'm so excited about spending some time with the collective community, but also with my sister girls. So y'all are in for a treat because we haven't kikied in a while. So we're going to kiki with purpose. I'm Glenda Carr, co-founder of Higher Heights for America, a national organization that is the political home for Black women, the place for us to be informed, engaged, and to take action. And that is investing in Black women's political leadership from the entry point, registering to vote, to advocating on the issues we care about, to recruiting, training, and supporting Black women to run for office, and helping our Black women electeds across this country to push innovation into our public policy and budget priorities. And so I am just a little girl, that's me and my mama right there, a little girl that's grown up from the Northeast, Connecticut, and Higher Heights was born in a Brooklyn cafe with my girlfriend and colleague, Kimberly Peeler Allen. You know how sisters do, we get together and a little vent session can turn into some productivity. And so yes, we were, literally complaining about how, some others talk about Black women in our democracy and not seeing ourselves in that democracy, and wrote the words Higher Heights down that day. And 10 years been building the political home for Black women, but more importantly, partnering with like Collective PAC and Higher Heights. We're like the little babies on the scene around the same time. Now we grown. And then, Yvette Simpson has been like a founding circle member, an elected official, an endorsed candidate, a co-conspirator. And so, these two sisters are very dear to my heart and are literally, if you don't know, these are the architects of the modern day democracy. And so tonight I look forward to talking about our little plans over the next 24 months, 4 years.
Not that long. No, you're right.
8 years.
We're here now. Yes. Yvette, and I just have to say a special thing. Yvette is not only our sister friend, but she was once our candidate that we were working to make sure she could become the next, at that time, next mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio, our home state of Ohio. That was not her intended purpose at the time. And she has now gone on to, I hate to say it, bigger and better things because she is able to have a national viewpoint in strategizing ways to have progressive candidates win their offices and really champion progressive issues. So go ahead, Yvette, tell us a little bit about you, honey.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Glenda. I am so grateful to be here. I don't know. I think, Glenda, you said it. I just needed this today. I think there's something about when we all get together, we're all warring in our own places and also coming together to fight, to make sure that we've got representation of Black people, Black women in leadership. But I just love it when we can all be together. I feel like we kind of letting everybody in on our like sister sessions. So, and how we think and how we strategize around this work that we are doing intentionally. So I'm Yvette Simpson. I'm the CEO of Democracy for America. Just started in this role in January of 2019 as the first female ever to lead Democracy for America. We were founded back in 2004, 17 years ago by Howard Dean. And are one of the largest coordinated progressive PACs in the country. And Democracy for America has always, I think, been on the cutting edge of making sure that we have representation. But I have been more than intentional since I started in this role about what that should look like. And our first 9 endorsements this year were all Black women. I did not apologize for that. I will never apologize for that. Our 10th was a Black man. Actually, you would struggle to find a white person on my website right now. They're out there, they're going to be there, but we're doing the work. We're doing the important work of making sure that we live our values. And what we know is that we need to go a long way to make sure that our democracy reflects who we are and where our power center is. Black women are the power center of our party. So before I was in this role, though, as Stephanie said, I was running in 2017 in the year of the Black woman mayor to be the first Black woman mayor in my city. There was a whole gang of us. Some were successful, some didn't. Some came back and we got to jam together with Tashara and she won her rematch. But I think you're right, Stephanie. I think, God had a different purpose for me and I'm not at all regretting the closed door because the open window was so much better. So now I get the chance to help so many other people, Black, white, but certainly Black women are our focus this year and in the years to come. To get into positions of leadership, because what we know is when Black women lead, right, things get better. They just do. And so you're going to hear a lot today for those of you watching, Black girl magic, Black girl excellence, a lot of cheering on, honestly, Black women. If you're not a feminist and you don't support Black women, you might want to change the channel because there's going to be a lot of love right here. And I do feel so grateful to be with 2 such amazing, I don't even want to call y'all veterans, but y'all not new to this, y'all true to this, and y'all been at this a lot longer, who have both taught me so much. Me as a monthly supporter of Collective PAC, of course, they endorsed me, so did Higher Heights, DFA did too, and being a founding circle member of Higher Heights. So together, we're talking today about this very important topic, but we've been warring on this for a minute. So excited to talk about how we're gonna work through and make sure that we get Black women or Black women, many Black women in the Senate in the next cycle. So excited to have that conversation with you all today.
Thank you, honey. And it's funny, when I was talking with our team about this event coming together, and they said, okay, so who should we get to? I said, no, we don't need a moderator. I said, just let us go. Just let us go.
We didn't even know talk point. Like talk points, questions, we good.
We just
do what we do. But I do want to kick it off with a question. And really it's more of a lay of the land on where we are. We know that Carol Moseley Braun was the first Black woman to serve in the U.S. Senate from the state of Illinois, followed by our now Vice President Kamala Harris, who we were very fortunate, I think, as well as Higher Heights, we were able to endorse her when she ran in 2018. To become the U.S. Senator from the state of California. And now we have no Black women in the Senate. I want to start with a foundational question of why is it even important that this is the topic that we're talking about? We have, 50 people that are in the Senate? We have folks that are able to represent issues that we care about. Why is it even an issue that we don't have a Black woman in the Senate? And what would it mean for us to have a Black woman in one or multiple of those seats?
Well, diverse decision-making tables make better decisions. balance. And that's across the board in elected office, in government, in corporate, in nonprofit, in community-based organizations. And so when you don't have a diverse decision-making tables, many of the issues in the perspective and the qualifications and the backgrounds and the lived experiences of those, it's like literally empty voices, doesn't push innovation into our public policy and our budget priorities. And so when you talk about just using the body of, we can't have celebrated the ascension of Kamala Harris to the vice presidency literally at the detriment of the fact that we've lost a voice. But frankly, I will even challenge all of us is that Yvette talked about this, right? Which is we can't talk about just breaking barriers and breaking glass ceilings and being okay with just one. So it's the whole, we're going to elect senators with an S and governors with an S. And we'll be talking about what's the pathway and how we get there. But Kamala Harris is the reason why we were talking about Black women's, infant mortality rates and maternal rates. And she left the Senate and brought that bad boy all the way to the White House. And so she was talking about, all right, I know we're having a sister girl conversation. Kamala Harris was talking about fibroids in the U.S. Senate. And y'all know as Black women, if one gather and we start really having conversations, unlike our mothers and grandmothers, we'll be like, girl, you should have fibroid. What? And so those are the conversations that you're like, why is Glenda bringing up fibroids? Is because it's underfunded for research. And that stuff starts in, public decision-making tables. And so those are the types. We can name other public policy issues, but we certainly need to have our voices at every decision-making table.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I'm going to double down on that and add a little extra. And DFA has supported Kamala Harris in every one of her roles up to Senate too. So she was a DFA endorsed candidate in every race that she's had, and proud to have supported her. And of course, she supported me in my mayor's race too. So the Black women's circle is real, 100%. But she should not have been the only one. Right? Like we shouldn't have just had one. And we all rallied together to put pressure on a certain governor to make sure that the seat wasn't empty. He didn't listen to us. He didn't check for us. So now we got to do this other work, but she should not have been the last one. And I think the reason why Black women need to be in every single table where where decisions are being made is because Black women bring everybody in. And so we're not just representing Black women at tables, like we're representing folks who are brown at tables. We're representing people who have abilities and different abilities and people who have different persuasions and different love and different genders. And so one of those things that's really, really important is that when Black women are in power, we hold the whole community. And I talk about this a lot. And I'm bragging on Black women because we need to, because it's just all 100% true. Do a fact check. When Black women are in leadership, things get done. And we know how powerful Kamala Harris was when she was in the Senate and holding people accountable. Black women speak truth to power. It's our love language. It's our superpower. And we do it willingly, able, and a lot of times pretty easily. That voice is missing now, as you know, from the Senate. We need that. We bring everybody in and we hold whole communities. I mean, I love Maya Angelou's quote when she says, I come as one. I stand as one, I come as 10,000. And so the idea that when Black women lead, things get done because of the fact that we're holding everybody, because we're powerful, because we're sharp, because we're smart, because we're inclusive. And I think having that perspective, especially with all the foolishness that we know is happening in DC right now, having a strong Black woman in the Senate to set this thing real straight, rather than, the very powerful position she has to break the tie, I think would be it's very significant. And we need more than one. We need many Black women leading. And so that's why we need Black women in the room, because they can and do hold space for everyone, again, because we are powerful, we are strong, and we're not afraid to lead. And I think we need that so desperately right now.
So Yvette, the point I love that you brought up is out of all the points, but especially I think about we can win everywhere because our issues are everyone's issues. And yesterday I had the great opportunity to have a conversation with Congresswoman Lucy McBath. We had a fundraiser for her yesterday, and I always look to her. I always look to Lauren Underwood as the examples of the strong Black women who were able to win in majority white districts, to show that Black folks and especially Black women can win everywhere. But the fact of the matter is, it is extremely hard for anyone, but especially a person of color, especially a Black woman who we know typically receives less donations for her campaign than any other demographic. We know it's hard to win statewide. And so, we've been thinking a lot about the barriers to entry, the barriers to success when it comes to winning statewide. We know a big part of that is funding. But what do you all think needs to happen to create a better foundation and playing field for Black women to be successful on the state level? And I don't even want to talk about Senate right now. I'm thinking about we have never had a Black woman Secretary of State. We have never had a Black woman governor. How can we help strengthen the bench of Black women winning statewide? What infrastructure do y'all think needs to be put in place to do that?
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit about like Black women lead by the numbers, since we're going to talk about more than Senate, because that's important, because it's about pipeline. And so, in our country's history, we know we've never had a Black woman serve as governor. I always say serve because, I still believe we elected a Black woman, but so never had a Black woman serve as governor. We've actually only had 16 Black women serve in statewide executive offices, and we currently have 6. We currently have 356 Black women serving in state legislatures, and that's been a jump since 2000, like a major jump since 2016. And we have elected there's currently 8 Black women serving as mayors of top 100 cities. And Yvette talked about there was this first wave in 2017. There were only 2 Black women serving as mayors of top 100 cities in 2014. We're at 8. And there were some women in between, but we're currently at 8. And we're in the second wave of the second wave of Black women mayors. And so I always start with that.
Can I just say, I have to at this moment, Deborah Peoples is running to represent the 12th largest city in America, Fort Worth, Texas. Her race is in a couple of weeks. I just want to throw Deborah Peoples out there, support her. Thank you, Glenda.
Yeah. And so to level set, I call it beyond the thank you. Like my whole wall can be the thing. So I have this everyday woman that says thank you. So we've got to go beyond the thank you. So everybody thanking Black women for saving democracy for the 10th time.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And so some of it is about, one, us believing in the political possibilities of Black women. And I mean us as in global, everyone, and Black women and African Americans need to believe in the political possibilities of Black women. And so we already know there's a roadmap for Black women to run, win, and lead. And we also have a pipeline. So this notion that we don't exist, Stephanie talked about that, is incorrect. In fact, there are like the major examples of our pipeline, like our bench, y'all, is deep, and we have depth and breadth. And so, you take a Kamala Harris, ran, won, and served on a local level, on the statewide executive level, on the federal level, and on the national level. We have Letitia Tish James, who's the New York State Attorney General, was a staffer to an elected official who then ran for city council, ran for citywide office, ran for state executive offices, and then what's next, right? And then we have all those little examples. You've got most of the members of Congress have served on local levels, or they were, Stephanie, I always use the example of the 2018 class that we all supported, because they're the examples of Black women come from different backgrounds to be elected, right? And so 2018 was the 50th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm. Look at this, look, Shirley Chisholm. Historic run to be the first Black woman in the United States House of Representatives. And in 18, we elected 5 Black women. And so we, Steph, we were up in here like, yeah.
Felt like Christmas, yeah.
We also elected a teacher, and not just any teacher, but like the 2016 Teacher of the Year, Johanna Hayes. We elected a nurse, right? In Lauren Underwood, we elected a city council member, that is Ayanna Presley. We elected a state legislator who's a Somalian refugee, Ilhan Omar, and we elected Lucy McBath, who lost her son to racially motivated gun violence, right? And so that class that shows you the pathway that a white man takes and what he brings to the table is totally different than the unique qualifications. And so we got to believe in the political possibilities. We have to build what we're going to talk about today is building literally the blueprint and the strategy for 10 years, not the whole let's jump on the thank you Black women last minute. So the notion is, oh, where did y'all all come from? We were here. And these women and the women that came before them have been pushing, Yvette has been pushing obstacles, man-made obstacles and institutional barriers out of the pathway to bring us here. So this wasn't a blip in, yes, there were some moments that created energy. It was the hard work of Black women-led and Black-led organizations that have built this moment that we stand on.
So good. I can't keep following you, Glenda, because you know, it just leaves me very little to say, except for amen. So amen. And also all those wonderful candidates that you named. I got to work with every single one of them. And I can tell you, it was an amazing joy in 2018 to see that many Black women from across the country flipping seats, winning seats. And how do we do that on the state level? You know, and I think when we think about what it takes to win, period, what it takes to win in a statewide race, and then you add the isms and schisms that Black women are going to face. You know, we can talk about our elected Black woman governor who faced a challenge from her own party of a white woman with the same name. And that woman got creamed. And that meant that our candidate had fewer resources and fewer time to be able to really, we know she was elected, but to really kill it. We need to talk about the challenges that we have when Black women step up. Institutions that are supposed to support them say they can't do it. They're not ready. Only a white woman can win. Only a white man can win. And so right out the gate, you're facing this really strong headwind. And what we know is when we think about the 5 M's that it takes to run and win is, management, metrics, manpower, woman power, messaging, media, when you think about, and money, I think I said money, all the things that it takes to win. For a Black woman to win statewide, all of those things, boxes have to be checked, and they have to be checked early. So one, these races have to start early. We need everybody on board, no distractions. And so we've got 2 real challenges, right? Like racism and sexism, and it shows up in different places differently. There are places in this country where sexism tends to hold Black women back as much as racism. And there are places where certainly the racism is dominant. But we need to have an honest conversation about it is often our own party that does not realize, as you said, the power of Black women and does not put those resources and instead roadblocks up against Black women who can and will win. So you have to have all of those things lined up and you have to have them early. And the electorate that we are engaging, as you said, Stephanie, early, needs to be delivered to those candidates, right? So when certain candidates show up, everybody's ready. We got our voter file. We're going to go out and we're going to engage. And then Black women get out and then all of a sudden, we got them on the Chitlin circuit. We're not talking about having them go and talk to working families, which the message that Black women bring is about lifting up working families, which includes Black families, right? Talking about rural places and places where people are really disenfranchised and disconnected. Black women can serve and should be given an audience and the ability to really run there with the support of the party. And so I think, one of the things that we have to do is, particularly as leaders in our spaces where we're part of the party, but we also are part of the party that pushes in a different way necessarily than the party, is to call that out from the get-go. If a Black woman's going to win, the party needs to be there. They need to be united around the candidate. It needs to be early. The money needs to be there. The electorate and the infrastructure needs to be built early for them to reach to all voters. They need to be given we know the team has to be right. That's the management piece. We got to make sure that we've got enough boots on the ground. And the message, we could talk all day about the way Black women are messaged by the media, often local media, sometimes state media and national media, out the gate when they run. And so we've got to control that too. So when you think about all it takes all of that, and it takes all of that early and consistently. And I believe that if we do that, then we can win. And it starts with us right out the bat. If we've got a strong Black woman candidate in our party, or somebody outside of our party is saying Black women can't win, we got to shut that down.
Yeah, and they actually don't say Black women can't win, they use our favorite word, y'all gonna roll your eyes, electability, right? So first of all, in the political dictionary, there is no word called electability. If you put electability, it's like, oh, Black women. And so I wholeheartedly agree, Yvette. And what happens, Johanna Hayes said this once, which is, groups like ours are in early. And then she's like early to the party and everybody else jumps on when it's popular to jump on. But many of these women, especially that class of 2018, right? They won with scrappy campaigns with like sometimes just us rocking with them, right? And we certainly have seen, Steph, like we roll and we supported Kamala Harris's presidential run, right? And hosted events and looking around like anyone, Beulah? And then everybody on board rocking, Chucks and pearls. And so some of that.
You're right.
So it's going back to believing in the political possibilities. Like if we believed early, same thing, people, revisionist history, we were all down in Georgia, right? People, the revisionist history, people talk like they were with Stacey from the beginning, and they weren't. And imagine what would happen again if we were all on board early. And these organizations don't shy away. I see, some comments in the chat talking about, in 2017, Higher Heights worked with 30 Black women leaders and penned an open letter to the DNC. And then that next year, Quentin and Stephanie wrote that open letter to the DSCC and the DCCC. And those are incremental steps. Like we are here, we are where we are with some early conversations about Black women, about to run for US Senate because of that groundwork that we did in 17 and 18, our continued push to push our colleagues to understand that we have the matrix, right? All these women have the receipts that they were outspent and still were able to run, that they, as Stephanie said, they ran in majority white districts and prove that we not only excite Black voters and Black women, that we actually can build a coalition of diverse voters that are excited about our leadership.
So one of the things I don't like to assume that things are general knowledge. I know coming into doing this work, I was frankly amazed at how many D this and D that and D that. I'm like, what is the DSCC and the DNC and the DCCC and the DGA and what? It just was like slightly overwhelming. Like this, I almost felt like it was like a test. You got to remember, like, what do all these letters mean? And then once I understood the letters and what the organizations did, I started to understand their role in either helping or hindering Black folks running strong campaigns where they were supported early, they were supported often, and not being helpmates that we need in order to progress our candidates forward. And so wanted to see if you ladies can give us just a little bit of a kind of a civics internal lesson about various organizations, and not just the ones that are really affiliated with the Democratic Party, but also progressive organizations that support candidates. We talk about, I love the 5 M's, Yvette. I mean, that is essentially what it is. Those are the 5 components that you need to run for office to be successful for sure. And so you have that whole campaign aspect of it. But then you have this whole other aspect that can also be a barrier, which is the institutionalized way in which we support candidates over other candidates. And so can you all give us a little bit of a breakdown of not necessarily what each group does at all, but why is it important that we, especially as Black voters who are the base voters of the Democratic Party, especially Black women who vote at a higher percentage rate than any other demographic in this country, what role do we need to play to hold these progressive and democratic established organizations accountable for their support of Black women candidates early and often, especially those that are running on the state level? Yvette, starting with you.
So one, there are 7, I feel like, D organizations: DSCC, which is the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee; DCCC, which is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee; there's a DLCC, which is the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee; there is DGA, the Democratic Governors Association; there's DSOS, the Democratic Secretary of State; DAG, Democratic Attorney Generals Association; and then DNC, which, as you know, is the big, Democratic National Committee. And so there are all these organizations that outfit and exist to represent the party, and putting forward resources, dollars, recommending candidates, and supporting candidates. And that big D organization needs help from organizations like ours to remind them that we are included in that. That Black women need to be a part of that. And honestly, that's not always the first conversation. Often we are battling and challenging, and I have battled and challenged every single one of these organizations at one time or another to say, why aren't Black candidates being pushed forward first? Why aren't progressive candidates being considered first? Particularly because we know that we can win if we have the support. Outside of that, there's a ton of really, really big establishment organizations, progressive organizations like Emily's Lists and Move Ons and the Working Family Party and all these organizations. And they exist in a space to help support candidates, to help organize voters, to make sure that we have the support we need to win, to push issues that are really important to our community. And so that's kind of the arc of kind of the institutional piece of it. I think the challenge is that, and this is always true, is that we don't see the same level of diversity or the same level of commitment in these big D organizations. And so we end up being the ones that are rallying from the outside instead of being necessarily on the inside. And so I think it's very, very important. And this is what we do, is we say, okay, DCCC, DSCC, DLCC, we don't want the first candidate that you push out here to be a white candidate. Did you consider this candidate? What about this candidate? And when you show up, we need you to show up with the same level of enthusiasm and generosity as you do when white candidates show up.
Actually, we need more of a check. We need more of a check than what you would give the white candidate.
Or also that you recruit us. Not the default candidate. And there's a push on all sides, institutions, unions, community-based organizations, influencers and thought leaders and donors, because they often shape how these institutions move along. And frankly, in a democracy, Black women aren't a political monolith. And so all these organizations that Yvette just talked about, there's counterparts over on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So.
Yeah,
so
and
infrastructure that we have to deal with.
First, thank you, Yvette, for breaking that down, because
she had the whole. I was like, all right,
there will be a quiz at the end for those of you who.
Let me take some notes.
I said the DSOs. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know there's so many, and this is the fun part about DFA.
Can I ask you a question?
You guys have this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you know a plethora of Black folks that work in these organizations?
Not many.
Now, there's been a movement.
There has been a concerted effort, and also.
But so if you're listening and you want to be more engaged, we have to be involved in our local political infrastructure, wherever you decide your ideology falls, because that is how we move, again, pipelines. We can't just all want to run for, I know for a fact, I don't want to be an elected official, that I've always known that this was my role in my pathway. And we need more of us to be in your local political club. We already run the show for our little civic associations. So consider, being part of these infrastructure, because you actually create and push pressure inside to move along. And that's why we've seen more Black women serve as party leaders, both on the county level and on a statewide level. Congresswoman Nikema Williams and Congresswoman from Georgia is the Democratic Party leader. Karen, it's the end of the day, Lord. Karen Carter Peterson was the Democratic Party leader in the deepest of Deep South in Louisiana, and they just elected Congresswoman Robin Kelly in Illinois. And so those are the top of the party structure, but there are all types of roles that we can play. And some of the gains have been made because of the Black women pushing from the inside.
But one thing we got to acknowledge, though, is there's so many influencers in there. One of the audience members talked about unions, and we can talk about that too, right? The influence that the unions have had historically on parties, and the fact that a lot of those have been white led. And so the work that has to continue to happen to make sure that there's diversity, because there's the person that's in the seat in power, and then there are the people who are really in power in party structure. And it's not always the person with the nameplate. And so I think we need to continue to shout from the rooftops that we need to make sure that all of our stakeholders, all of the folks who are coming to the party, you talked a little bit, Glenda, about the money that moves these organizations a lot, that influences these decisions. So we've got to be intentional about making sure there's accountability, because guess who they ask to show up to vote every time? Guess who the woman is at the poll table, making sure, people are voting? Guess who the woman is at the volunteer table, kicking off shifts? Almost always the Black woman who knows where everybody is. She the woman that, been doing this forever. She is the real organizer in chief. And then when it's time for her to step up or for her to support her favorite candidate, she doesn't always have that kind of support.
So I feel like, it was really important in this conversation to lay the foundation as to why it is difficult for Black women to run for Senate, to run statewide. We know that between Democratic and progressive organizations being supportive, just the campaign as a whole, we know that unions play a role, because ultimately these are also about resources. Who has the resources to give the amount of money that it will cost to run for Senate? And we're talking about a floor of $10 million to run for the US Senate. I don't know about y'all. I do know about y'all. We don't know people who can just, boom, I'm gonna drop $1 million on you for your race. Especially because there are limits as to how much you can give a candidate. Whereas we see so many folks now, especially white males who are running, are self-funded, or who have a network of being able to tap into resources that can just flow, or have connections to super PACs that can have a special thing for them that they employ. But one of the things that I also know, and this is kind of to your point about electability, Glenda, and viability is, I think, one of those words, but I understand viability, a little bit more as to, it's important to know, do you have an infrastructure yourself as your campaign that is ready to run? Do you have the experience? I believe in experience. I think that's important, that you have some kind of a foundational background for you to be prepared to run for a certain office. It's just like it is for any job. But, I think about our community specifically. And I really often go back to your race, Yvette, for mayor of Cincinnati, where I know there were Black folks who said, how is this Black woman going to represent our city and be the next mayor? And that is a real reality, that not only do folks outside of the Black community have a difficult time oftentimes wrapping their head around this idea of a Black woman representing them, but especially in one of the highest offices in the land, which one of the most esteemed legislative bodies in this country is the US Senate. How do we need to talk to our communities and prepare our communities so that we understand that it starts at home with us supporting our folks, giving those $5, $10, $50 to support, and that we as Black folks have to get out of our head the notion that we are not electable or viable or able to represent our communities and also represent others. Because I've heard that, how that Black woman gonna represent them white people down the street? You know how? Because they care about education and they care about healthcare, and they, so what's your thoughts on how we can change the narrative within our own community to get our folks on board with supporting Black women more than we have been?
Girl, yeah, it's the same thing we had. When I said we have to believe in the political possibilities of Black women, I'm talking about us. We are, and we catch ourselves sometimes in our little private moments where we still come from we have to be twice as better at everything. And so we will literally go, she should wait her turn. She gonna need to do something with her hair. She ain't wearing a lip.
She ain't wearing a lip.
Look at her hair. Like we, we've created that environment that—
I'm sorry, a lip is lipstick. Listen, everybody, you dropping slang now, baby. Lip is lipstick. Let me say, Glenda always wears.
If you were raised with a Black, literally, I was like, Lord, let me put on, and this is generations of women selling women things, right? So like, I have a whole thing of lipstick because I go like, oh, my mama's gonna tell me I don't have a lip on, right? Ayanna, like to talk about Ayanna Presley was concerned about her single-lace braids and people told her she couldn't wear the braids. And she wore them and it ended up being her signature thing, which even made her decision to show her bald head even stronger because she's like, well, people are so, they know my identity. And so we have to believe in our qualification. First of all, if a white man has known that he could represent us since the dawn of time, certainly we come, I was on I think you might've been on this women's conference, Stephanie, when they were talking about Black women come to the first day of work with 64 crayons and a sharpener, and our white counterparts are like basic. They come with their 8 crayons, right? And so Black women need to show up in this politics with a like solid on that. We know we can do this. And then if we're going to really talk about electing Black women, and I'm talking to Black women, then we have to lean in our time, talent, and treasures, right? And it is about those $3, but it's that, as Nina Turner told me, like that political layaway. Like I'm being so much more strategic about how I'm giving money to candidates and going, who are my candidates on a local level and on a national level? And I'm on reoccurring little payments with everyone. Like I could actually get to this in a 2-year cycle, might not be able to write that full check. And so just being more strategic about the funding. We already hit the streets for other candidates. Let's hit the streets for our candidates. And, according to Nielsen, Black women are trendsetters. People want to know who we talking about, what are we wearing? And we can actually shift. Like when I watch, like everybody, my feed was crazy for Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday.
Yes.
Right? Talking about her being the second Black woman to stand at to brief the White House press corps in 30 years. Yeah, between 30 years, between Judy Smith, yes, Miss Scandal herself, original, 30 years. And my feed was going crazy from my everyday friends to my friends that work in politics. Same thing with Kristen Clark's confirmation this week. And when we do that, reporters follow our everyday, like our girl, Amber Goodwin, who is in herself an influencer in her field around gun violence. She just did a little tweet about her graduation, just something personal. And that went viral, right? And so we should know that we can actually shape and change and help elect Black women. And so we have to believe in our own political power. We talk about you can't harness the power we don't know we have. So the reason why they're trying to strip all of our power is everybody else knows the power of everyday Black women donors, Black women candidates. And so we just need to step a little harder, demand our return on our voting investment, Yvette, right? Like we voting, but here's my demand. I want policies that directly impact me, my family, and our communities. And we claiming seats, or Stephanie's a little more bold. She'd be like, we snatching seats.
Snatch them seats. Snatch them. I think I love that. I'm gonna get a t-shirt that says snatch them seats. I'm here for it. And put your lip on. I love that you got your little star lipstick right there, girl. Yes, indoctrination is a real thing. I want to talk about the psychology, right, of all of this. And I live this, and I've talked to so many candidates across the country Black women who have lived this, right? Like your first real challenge is to get Black people with you, right? Like, because if Black people ain't with you, you ain't winning. And we are hard on each other. And that's racialized depression. Let's be clear. It's not just because we feel this way. We were taught to not, to challenge each other, to demand more of each other than we do of everybody else, to not trust each other, to not love each other. This is what oppression does. And there's also genderized oppression, right? And that's why I think the fact that, folks can see us doing what we do breaks through that, right? So that folks know that we do, and we work together. We have a genuine love for each other, and we're committed to this rising up and supporting of other women who look like us. And so that oppression is real. And so this idea that oh, well, she ain't never here. Like I'm literally here every day. Like everything that I've done, like the white folks are saying I'm doing too much for us and you saying I'm not doing enough for us. I'm literally here all the time. Or when you get up there, you're going to get brand new and forget about us. Well, let me get the chance because one, no, I'm not. And also the guy who's in the seat right now already ain't checking for you.
Don't think nothing.
Yeah. And you ain't getting nothing. And I think so that's a big challenge is and us believing that we can win. And that's another hurdle because Black folk, we want to be with winners. You know what I'm saying? So if Black folks are believing the hype that you can't win, then they're not going to want to roll with you. They might make a deal with the other guy, because when he win, they want to get something. We want to make sure I'm with the winner. I want to roll.
Baby.
And we saw Barack Obama go through that. It really wasn't until he won Iowa that Black folk really was like, oh, wait a minute, a Black man might win. But up until that, folks are like, well, we'll just wait and see. We don't know. And I think the same thing happened with Kamala, right? Like this whole thing around, like, can she really win? I don't know. Should a Black woman be, can she do it? And so I think it's really, really important for us to own that and call that out for what it is. It is oppression. And it's something that is hard to overcome because we've been taught to be like crabs in a barrel, and we should not be that. We should be lifting each other up. We should believe in each other. And I can tell you that if we got 98% of Black women who vote Democrat and win these races for everybody else, if we all do the same thing for every Black woman that runs, we win every time. But we let these divisions sometimes get in our way. And I think it's very, very important for us not to be afraid and to be the first and the loudest to say, yes, I am standing with this Black woman. Yes, I believe she can win. I'm going to give her my $5 a month. I'm going to put the layaway check down right now because I'm going to be a major donor by the time we get to election day. I'm about $5 a month.
Because that matters. Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody I know. And we hold so many communities. I mean, we talk about our sororities and our church communities and our bridge clubs and our, and our card party groups. And we hold a lot of people, and what we say really matters. I remember when I ran for mayor and I literally bawled because we were struggling. I mean, like my opponent had gotten some Black women locked up, in his side. And I was just like, what the heck is going on? So our Herald, our Black paper, they did a full page ad of 100 Black women who were standing with me. Like, I lost my makeup, like talk about running mascara, and that's the thing. It's like when that people took notice of that, and so we've got to be really, really mindful that we can be the ones to shift this whole thing if we show up early and we give all of our support as much as we can, and we believe. And don't be fearful. So what, you support a Black woman and she doesn't win? Guess what? You support plenty of white men who don't win. And you support white men who win and then don't show up for you. So at the very least, if you do that, you're going to have somebody who reflects you, who reflects your values, and who's going to really be there for you. So it's a real challenge that we've got to overcome, because I believe that the first and most consistent support for any Black candidate has to be that base. And I see candidates do this wrong all the time, where they go out and get everybody else, and then you try to come for your base later. You got to have your base locked down first. And if we can get more consistent support for Black women candidates from Black women and Black men, I think we're going to go a long way.
Yeah. Listen, one of the things we always say at the Collective PAC is, to change the laws, we must change the lawmakers. We know that we do not have the policies in place to progress Black folks forward the way we need to progress. And so then therefore we need folks who reflect, respect, and represent our communities the way they should be represented. And so thank you for that, Yvette. And so we're getting ready to wrap up, but before we do, and you all have already dropped some really great solutions. And I want to just dig in a little bit more to the work of Higher Heights and DFA on what you all are doing it or preparing to do to make sure that we have a Black woman who is a senator sooner than later. So yeah, give us a little insight on what's up with your organizations.
Let's do kind of a quick touch point. So again, we're the political home for Black women. One of the other things, you've got to rock with all of our organizations. So if you haven't been rocked with all three, there's others, but today we talk about these three. You should walk with us because we complement each other, right? We are stronger together. This whole notion, just so you're aware, just like they talk about Black candidates, they talk about Black organizations, right? There's too many of you. Why you need another one? We've never heard there's too many white groups or too many white women's groups. Let's just start there. So we need to support our Black-led and particularly Black women-led organizations. So we're doing some research. We've been doing some short-term research, some long-term research. So the research that we found is the general electorate, right? And we've been doing women, meaning white women, women of color, and Black women. They have an appetite to elect Black women, right? We did research around the vice, like were we ready to receive a Black woman vice president? And it was a overwhelming yes. Voters want a new generation of leaders, and that's not new meaning young. It just means a new way of of what a leader looks like, they actually want to make history, and they want someone that's a unifier, and they believe that a Black woman holds those attributes. So we've done that research in 2020. We're doing it now because there's Black women on the ballot. So it's like, we're not making up Jane, the candidate. We're actually using real candidates to do this research. And so we'll continue to do the research. It's not a big, bold idea, but our big piece is, as you know, say, we run from election to election. We have been in crises to crises. Oh my God. And so we are not only working for that short-term opportunity that's for 2020, but we are building assembling a strategic plan for 10 years. So when we are all sitting on vacation, rocking in our rocking chairs, that it is that we had a 10-year strategy. And that 10-year strategy actually is a multi-state, both state, deep South, Northeast, Midwest, West, that there are actually all these opportunities for Black women, and we actually know who some of those women, like the chessboard, and being able to give the resources early and the infrastructure in the culture shift work. So the last two more. So one, there is still some culture work that needs to be done, and we need to reshape the narrative about what democracy looks like. And democracy looks like the women on the three of us. And then finally, it is continuing to grow the network, being the political home for Black women, the political lifestyle brand, right? So we can grab the folk that believe they're politically engaged already. We need to grab my best friend and my cousin from around the way. And we've seen how we rocked in 2018 and 2020. It's that sustained 365 days worth of political engagement, and giving them the tools to be able to push for a democracy that we can all believe in. Because once we are stronger, ladies, than we are together. So that's $3, $5 times a million. And I'll just leave the one last anecdote from 2020 when President Joe Biden then announced his running mate. They raised, and correct me, $48 million in one day, right?
One day.
The Black woman he introduced, blew life into that campaign, right? And that money we can trace came from Black folk, because people were rocking their $19.08, $19.08, $19.13, and whatever the founding date of Howard and Spelman. People were prideful in that. We can continue to do that and do that down ballot in a way that actually changes all the leaders that represent us by using our time, talent, treasure, and voices and votes.
Yes, amen. And I think my first Biden dollar was on that day. might have been my only. I do run a progressive organization, although we were very supportive and we spent a lot of money to help Joe and Kamala get elected. But I was rocking with Kamala, so that part. You're right. That really did, I think, show how excited Black women were, and everybody was, to have a Black woman in that role. I want to have a Black woman at the top of the ticket. I'm here for that. So everybody was excited about the state of his state of the union address or whatever, his first 100-day address or whatever. And they were talking about two women behind him. I'm like, I want the woman to be in the front podium and, some women in the back too. Why not? So here's what we're doing. DFA has been identifying, recruiting, talking to Black women to run for Senate, Black women this cycle. And we are building and we'll be endorsing Black women for Senate this year. And we're doing that early work. So, when Stacey Abrams ran for governor, we were probably the first organization. I remember when she announced DFA came out, before a lot of people knew her, showed her around, got progressive support for her. Our members, mostly white people, gave Stacey so much money. To your point, Glenda, we know there's a lot of different people who are excited about strong Black female leadership. So we are building that. We're also starting to build our organizing infrastructure in those places to do exactly what we're talking about, not just engage likely voters, those folks that get engaged all the time. We spend all, but the expanding the electorate by talking to voters who don't get engaged all the time, voters who we could look back 4 or 6 elections. If you voted in the last 4 or 6 elections, but you didn't vote in the last election, we start early in engaging you, and we're getting our local groups and our national network of members ready to receive and support these amazing Black women for Senate. You know, we're doing that early work, and I know you all are doing it too, that early coaching work with these candidates, right? Where we got to talk about, okay, that person might not be the best person for your team. And also encouraging them, because, you know, we as Black women are really strong, you know, but we also like need help. And I think there's something about, and I can't tell you how many candidates, when they get me on the, you know, and I know you guys have this too, and they're like, I'm just so glad it's you. Like, I'm so glad to get to talk to you, you know, and I think they feel this kinship and ownership and support, because the person on the other end of this right now, Zoom, but used to be in person, was you. So we're building up and preparing to support multiple Black women to run for Senate. We believe that we've got an amazing group of sharp, capable women who can win. We are also crafting the media narrative. We talked about the importance of really, really early talking about Black women being in position to be able to win. We sometimes use our political muscle to get everybody on the same page. You guys know, y'all do it with me, you know, to really say, okay, y'all gonna wait? Really, you gonna wait? Don't wait. We need you right now. And if you do it, like, and we're assembling the team. And I think that is very, very important to do. We also are going to have some critical conversations about other candidates who, you know, may not be as capable, who are white candidates who might think they believe the hype around electability and they want to jump in. Let's talk about something else for you. Because, you know, this seat, we really want to make sure that we're supporting the candidate who we think is going to be the best candidate. In this case, it happens to be the Black woman, and we need to all be on the same page. And so these are some of the early things that we tend to do when we're preparing these candidates to go out, and because once you go, you go. Like, once you hit it, you know, we saw Val Demings, you know, once you hit it, it's like, boom, it goes. And so, you know, we really have to do that early work to make sure that the candidate is ready, their team is ready. We've got, you know, our plan for organizing the electorate, you know, our power building strategy to get multiple organizations on board, our coaching strategy for the candidate. You know, I know you guys have these phones where candidates are calling you night and day on moments of strength and moments of insecurity. So we do a lot. I pray for my candidates every day. So we need to do that because prayer works. Amen. So all of that is happening. And we expect to invest quite a bit of resources in these Senate races. You're going to see probably, I think right now we only have one white person on my website now. You're going to see a lot of Black candidates show up on our website before you see any white candidates for Senate. And we're being really intentional about the fact that this is the work that we need to be doing. This is the work that we all need to be doing, whether, you know, our membership is white or our membership is Black, whether our leader is white or our leader is Black. We need to be intentional about doing this very clear work. And so that's what we're doing right now, is starting to build that and build the projection modeling. I know that's boring. We do a lot of data-driven organizing to show the pathway for victory so that folks can see it. Like, this is where the votes are coming from. Here's where it's going to go. Here's where we need everybody to, as our sister Beyonce, let's get information. And so I think that's where we are now. But expect that we will be rolling out we will have several African-American women we will be supporting, and all of those should be announced by the end of the summer.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just want to express my appreciation to you both for your leadership and for your partnership and for your sistership. We truly are all in this together, and it's a wonderful journey to go on with you and so many other sisters that we have. Which reminds me, we need to have that little Zoom cocktail thing again, Glenda. So you need to send us an email. Sorry, side note.
Need a little summer, like, come on.
We're delayed. We need to have a little kickback on
summer
Zoom.
Water. Have a little summer water.
No, wine. We're gonna have wine.
Rosé is summer.
Oh, rosé.
That's my code.
We're gonna have rosé all day. And I'm excited about this election cycle. You know, we know, and I can say the Collective PAC has endorsed Sherry Beasley for Senate in North Carolina. There's also Erica Smith, a dynamic Black woman, my soror, that's also running for Senate in North Carolina. We endorsed Val Demings on the day that she announced that she's running for Senate in Florida. And so, and then we have, and I would be remiss if I did not say we have Jennifer Kelfoy and Jennifer McClellan, who are running for Virginia governor. So we can see also the progress that has been made even from 2016. and we are building upon the foundational blocks we were able to achieve together in 2018. And so now, 2021, 2022, I can see the victories ahead. And so much of that is possible because all of our organizations are digging in, really reaching for our pocketbooks more than we ever have. But that's a great thing because it also means that we're being supported in a way that we haven't been before. And so thank you, ladies, for your leadership, for your love, for your support. We always wish y'all nothing but the best and look forward to having many more conversations, especially as we get closer to really seeing what the landscape of Senate candidates looks like. And I also, in as much as this conversation is focused on Black women running for Senate, one, none of our organizations support a candidate just because.
Right.
As you said, Yvette, we are all very strategic. We are all very metrics based. We are always purposeful in who we endorse, who we are writing a check to, because it is a special thing to be able to write a check that comes from hard-earned resources that people are giving. So we take that job very seriously. So we're not just endorsing any Black person just because, hello, Daniel Cameron. But also, I am excited to say that there are going to be Black men that are running for the U.S. Senate. And I think that we are going to see a historic cycle of more Black candidates running for statewide positions than we've ever seen before. And again, that is progress and building upon the successes we've seen in the past. And so it's going to be a long journey, but I think it's going to be a fun and fruitful one. Yeah, it is. And so thank you for joining the collective tonight for our speaker series. And I wish y'all nothing but the best. Love y'all both. And we will be talking to y'all soon. And thank you for joining, everyone. Look at me. I'm so into y'all too. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you for joining us, for everyone that tuned in for our speaker series event tonight. Please, I encourage you to go to collectivepac.org where you can see the list of candidates that we have endorsed on a local, state, and federal level. We are excited to have so many successes under our belt, either through our primary election or through generals that have already concluded. As I mentioned, Deborah Peoples is running for Fort Worth mayor. Her election is, I think, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. But you can see all the candidates that the Collective PAC has endorsed thus far. Please, I encourage you to support all of our organizations. Go to our website, because the money that you provide to our organizations help us to do our job to support candidates across the country that are upholding progressive values to progress our communities forward. So thank you all again for joining. I'm Stephanie Brown James, co-founder, and I look forward to seeing you all next month on our next speaker series event. Bye.